The next item I have deserves a little bit of history, and that is the property known as Camp Shand, which is in Cornwall Borough along Route 322, right between 322 and the Lancaster County line. Just to put you in the neighborhood of Spring Hill Acres area is just to the west of it. Boyd Street comes out onto 322 from Cornwall, right in the same vicinity where Camp Shand is located. Camp Shand is owned by the Lancaster YMCA. For those who remember, it at one time was Camp Kiwanis, back I think in the 1980s. It was run by the Lebanon Y. It was then acquired by Lancaster YMCA. Anybody jump in and correct me here if I'm getting any of this wrong. But so the Lancaster Y became the property owner of Camp Shand. They have operated it as a youth camp for all of these years. Recently, earlier this year, the Lancaster YMCA decided that they are going to need to divest of Camp Shand. They were, I want to say, just sort of reshuffling their portfolio of properties, and this one was no longer going to fit into their portfolio. They have some other locations that they were their actual YMCA satellite locations in New Holland, in addition to the one in Lancaster City that they maintain. And there was concern that if this property were put onto the market, that it may not be retained and continue in its form as it's had for such a long time. So the Lebanon YMCA approached the county to see if the county would be willing or interested at all in purchasing Camp Shand, and the Lebanon YMCA would operate Camp Shand. So this would be a similar arrangement to the Lebanon Valley Rail Trail. So you have owned the Lebanon Valley Rail Trail, you own every foot of it. However, the management of it is done by the Lebanon Valley Rail Trail Group by agreement. The same would be the case with the Lebanon YMCA. I gave a little bit of a history behind the property. The YMCA provided you, Phil Tipton provided you with a summary that they would be interested in forming a long-term agreement with the county for the purpose of continuing to offer the camping experience and outdoor programming for the youth and families of Lebanon County. The long-range goal would be that they would utilize their endowment fund and seek additional contributions to that endowment fund to help support the ongoing upkeep and maintenance of the property. They believe they have multiple opportunities for individuals and businesses who may be willing to support that, and also seeking naming rights to the property in exchange for financial support. That's the background I have for you now. We've gone back and forth with the Lancaster YMCA. We at this point have an agreed upon price of $725,000, and would hope to go to settlement before the end of November. From the county's financial perspective, we would be utilizing capital funds that are on hand to purchase this asset, and it would be maintained as a county asset run by the Lebanon Y. Tom, I would ask if you have anything there to add that I may have missed. This one's pretty straightforward. Anything you?
No, I don't really have anything to add. I think you covered it all.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, William, go ahead.
I'm willing to make a motion to complete this transaction, but I do have a question. We had some early discussions about additional protection for land preservation, and I was just curious to know if we've made any progress in that respect.
Thank you. I did forget that. I think.
You want a second so we can discuss it, or did you make a motion?
I said I'll make the motion, yes.
And I'll second it. I'm sorry, Jamie. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget where we were in the motion.
Fine. Tom, do you recall how much of the land at this point is already under protection with federal lands because of the
66.9 acres.
Yep, she's right.
So 66 acres of this. And what's the total parcel?
120.
120.
20. Okay, so I was going to say half. I wanted to make sure. So literally half of this is already under protection. And yes, as Commissioner Ames stated, we had talked about adding it into, perpetuity, into protection with the Conservancy or some form of preservation. Commissioner, that's still the plan. And if there's a sales agreement once we begin to control the property, then we can pursue that with whichever party might be willing. I know that during the period that this property became available, there was some interest by a Conservancy to acquire the property in order to preserve it. However, when they learned of the county's interest in the property, they were perfectly fine with that, not being in competition with the county to buy the property, and I'm not sure that they had identified funds for it at that time either yet. So not only there was interest in it, there still is, and yes, we would pursue that. I just have to work with probably with the Conservation District to identify someone who would.
Yeah, either the Farm Preservation Program or, as you say, as a backup, the Conservancy. But I'd like to get us over the 20,000 for farm preservation.
Yes, we're very close to that, so this will be a big help in that regard. The only other thing I wanted to say was that this is consistent with our quality of life efforts on behalf of our citizens. It's a perfect fit for tying in with rail trail, as Jamie mentioned, and Governor Dick, and some other municipal parks throughout our county and other, related amenities. So I think it's a good fit, and it has a good partnership opportunity there with the Y, and also for getting or continuing us as probably the top in class 5 in the state in terms of land preservation. So there's a lot of good things to go with it. Commissioner Litz.
Yes, I'd also like to comment, please. I know that some people were upset when we looked to sell the land on the east end of the county, and that was maybe 14 acres or somewhere in that vicinity. So this one is much larger, and we're making strides to preserve a much larger parcel than what we sold, A. And B, as you said, Commissioner, this is a 7-generation project that I just really believe in. So this is going to be there for children, grandchildren, and unborn generations. And I just think it's a fantastic opportunity. I want to thank the YMCA for approaching us, and I look forward to a good working relationship with them for many years to come.
Okay. Anything else before we vote? If not, all in favor of the motion to acquire Camp Shand, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So moved. Okay.
All right.
So, sorry about that. I see Laura LeBeau has a hand.
Oh,
Is that on?
absolutely. Go ahead.
That could be on what we've already discussed, so I maybe bring her in.
Thank you. Commissioner, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to be clear on this Camp Shand purchase, and I think I agree with Commissioner Litz's comments. It's a fantastic idea for generations unborn yet. So I just want to understand the financial arrangement. So why the Lebanon Y is asking the county to pay the $750,000, and they will manage the land. Am I understanding that right?
It's $725,000.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But we would use county money to buy it from the Lancaster Y, and then the Lebanon Valley Family YMCA would be the managers of Camp Shand.
Yep.
And is it their intention that this would be a public use? The Y being a membership only type organization for a lot of their facilities. Would this be open to the general public, or would this be for the Y members?
They give scholarships to children that can't afford camp, Laura. So I think your answer is yes, but there is an application process for those who are not able to be members or afford the camp.
So it's still going to be run as some sort of like an overnight camp experience, or how the
Yes.
types of programs that they do?
Yes.
Yes, and it's also used by the school districts of Lebanon County as well. So all those relationships are intended to continue.
If I could,
Okay.
I could read a couple of lines from a summary that Phil Tipton provided in terms of their intentions. He states here that we plan to work with school districts and provide outdoor educational opportunities as well as businesses and churches to provide team building activities. The opportunity of serving more families and impacting a greater number of youth in Lebanon County, our mission will be to raise annual support for the work we do at Y Camp. Each year, the Y reaches out to the community for funds to help us in subsidizing programs for families who may face financial hardship. The Lebanon Valley YMCA turns no one away for the inability to pay. We work with every family so that they can participate in Y programs. We can only do this with the generous support of businesses and individuals in the community. So I hope that maybe adds a little to that.
Well, when Phil is talking about the Wise endowment, where does that come into play? It doesn't sound like they're putting up any money.
The camperships and the upkeep of the property.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the involvement I see of the county going forward is the ownership, essentially the protection or the insurance, the insuring of the structures that are there. That'll have to be done jointly with the YMCA because they'll have liability, we'll have property to cover. And, potentially if the county commissioners consider any sort of annual support level, I mean, that exists right now for Governor Dick, for Holman Park and some others. So I don't want to, I'm not promising anything in that regard. I'm just making a comparison to that. There is some support, some level of support on those to other recreational activities, but I don't think we've crossed that bridge yet.
Okay.
This camp has a rich past. I think it actually goes back to the 40s when Bethlehem Steel and the Kiwanians got together, and that's how it became Camp Kiwanis back in that era. But it's been back and forth with ownership, and this was our opportunity to solidify that forever and preserve that as a good, healthy outlet for our citizens. I think this marriage is a good one, and we look forward to working out all the details. But we did want to have the ownership here instead of having it owned by an entity outside Lebanon County. It just made sense for the timing today. Commissioner Litz.
Yes, I just want to add that many years ago, the county missed an opportunity to acquire the rail trail. We don't want to be in that position. This is an opportunity, one worth pursuing. And again, what we all said before, it's just a great marriage with the YMCA operating it.
To clarify what you're referring to, Commissioner, I think many years before the county, before the ownership now, there was an opportunity to buy a large part of what was the rail line then, and it was passed over at that time. And of course, we're now where we are, but I think that's what you meant. Is that correct?
Yes.